Hi, and welcome to the Album Sharing Sessions, where the three of us talk about three albums in a rotating schedule and then talk about those. And there's no genre that we need to stick to, no size of band or anything. It's just albums, time frames, anything.
You can pick anything you want.
And I think this week probably highlights that the most, to tell you the truth. But yeah, none of this really matters. We're not music reviewers. We're just three guys that talk about albums and music and put it on the internet for fun. Yeah, that's it.
So this is episode 6?
It is.
Right. What have we
It sure
covered
is.
before we started doing this?
So round 6 before we started filming was a interesting one where we did True Power by I Prevail, which started our first ever fight in this.
That is, I remember that.
Hellfire by Black Midi, Feel Something by Movements, and Smithereens by Joji, which is another one that's we went all over the place with.
Yeah, now that you say those out loud, none of those albums have anything to do.
That was that order of that month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember the True Power fight, though.
Yeah, no, Timmy told me I had bad taste in music. Even though he was the only one to rate that poorly. Like I just said, don't take what we say seriously. We're just guys with opinions. We try not to lie on those opinions. Try to make the internet happy. Opinions. We're just honest, and that's why I like doing this. So if we don't say we like something, we don't take it personally.
We don't hold back.
So for full disclosure, this one we didn't have as much time with the albums because Brandon is going on vacation.
Yeah, we usually do a 3-week cycle of listening, and then we get together.
So all these were shoved together, and we had to get our thoughts together in 2 weeks, which isn't that bad.
Which actually kind of helped me. I was talking to Tristan before the pod, and it kind of felt like I had more urgency to listen to the albums this week, or this go around, because I knew I had less time to work with.
I'm going to say normally by the third week, I'm I've already got my opinions pretty set in stone, and I'm not listening to them as much anymore. So yeah, it worked. I don't feel like I missed anything doing 2 week here.
Yeah, I listened to the, well, I guess we should probably say what we're reviewing. Right?
Yeah, probably. This week we were listening to Rush by,
Well, that's my album. Also, that's not
that's the first one I have written down. I'll skip it though. I'll let you say it. Routine Maintenance by Aaron West and the Roaring Twenties.
Which is a sequel to, episode 4?
Yeah, just 2 episodes ago.
Yeah. So, long-time listeners of the pod might be familiar
from two rounds ago.
With our friend Aaron West. I picked Moving Pictures by Rush.
I picked The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess by Chappell Roan.
She has been blowing up as of late.
Yeah. A little bit. I feel like you were actually almost ahead of it because I had never heard her before you made us listen to it. And all of my social media is eat her. Shoved down throat.
Yeah, she's blowing up. And I actually was listening to her a little bit before she started blowing up this much.
Yeah. It's weird because that album came out in September.
Yeah, it took a while for her to kind of get the ball rolling. But
yeah. I heard she almost quit music, but then she started blowing up.
When I'm at one album in, that seems a little soon. I told that to Ty, and she was like, I feel like that's fair to make an album, put your heart into it, and just be like, actually, I'm done if this doesn't do anything. I was like, actually, I look at it as too soon. But I was thinking we would go oldest to newest.
Okay. Oldest album?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that would mean Rush is up first.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, I had to I had to be different, I guess, and not pick a contemporary album.
Yeah.
From the early 80s.
Yeah, so any opening thoughts? What's past experience with Rush? I'm looking at you just because it doesn't matter.
I heard a lot of Rush growing up. It's the sort of music my dad would listen to.
That 70s, progressive rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rush is really good. I think we said on the last episode, or maybe it didn't make, I don't know if it made the cut or not, but you have 2112 vinyl
Yeah, it was after we stopped recording.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like 2112 a lot.
But yeah, Rush is like, it's just three really talented dudes. Like, that's just kind of their whole gimmick. Well, that and they're Canadian. I think they also use that as part of the appeal.
My short research earlier today on them, I actually didn't know they were three people. Yeah. I thought there was more, where they have like past members and stuff, but like...
Yeah, like...
I was trying to find the timeline, and I was like, they only got three people.
Yeah, Neil Peart, their legendary drummer, actually wasn't in the band for a while. Yeah. Like, I think he missed the first album or so, and then he joined the band.
Which is weird, because in my short research, I also found out that he like writes, at least for this album, every lyric.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like, how they made an album before having a lyricist is also... out there to me.
Yeah, he's like, I mean, he's since passed away, but he's got to be like top, I don't know, he's probably number one best drummer.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. No, crazy. I don't know if that'll ever be beat either. He's a really good drummer.
I mean, like, and as great as he is, it's not to take any credit away from the other two. Geddy Lee, bass and vocals, which I know some people like probably get annoyed by his vocals, and I can see why. Yeah. But I think they're fine. Like,
they're unique. I've
never they are unique. Like as soon as you hear his voice, you're like, oh, that's Rush.
Yeah. And I've never heard of somebody that actually sounds like that ever again.
He's got a pretty unique voice.
Like I was trying to rack my brain to come up with somebody that even sounds remotely like him, and I couldn't.
You really, he's kind of
like the closest thing. Closest thing might be the Journey guy. And that's not that close. But yeah, everybody in this band is incredible.
Yeah, and then lastly, but probably the most underrated member is he doesn't really get talked about as much as their guitarist, Alex Lifeson.
Incredible guitarist as well. I don't really typically like older music, but I've always kind of liked Rush. I've never really got into deep cuts or anything like that, but like singles and 2112 specifically I like a lot.
Which is kind of a reason why I picked Moving Pictures, because I feel like there's a lot of well-known tracks on this album, like such as Tom Sawyer, and I know YYZ's instrumental, but I think that's like one of their more popular songs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, Guitar Hero must have helped from it too. That's how I knew it. I didn't actually know it was Rush until we listened to this, and I was like, oh, that's from Guitar Hero. This is Rush.
Yep.
But yeah, getting into songs, I guess.
Yeah, there's not many of them.
No, I actually went track to track because there's only 7. Actually, I think I went track to track on every album of this entire episode just to get thoughts down. So I've got notes on notes on notes.
Well, I mean, if you want to go ahead and get it started then.
Truthfully, Tom Sawyer was always my least favorite one of their singles, like going into this.
Same. I didn't like Tom Sawyer very much.
Me too, actually. Like, I do, like, I like that song, but it's on the weaker side when you look at in the grand scheme of Rush's catalog. Yeah. It's not as good as, obviously, say, like a huge song like 2112, but, like, they have a lot of songs that kind of outdo Tom Sawyer.
Yeah.
I always thought it just sounded weird.
But, you can't deny it. It's, like...
Yeah, it's good.
It's for what it is, it's stood the test of time. You hear the opening little drum riff and the synth, it's like, oh yeah, here's Tom Sawyer.
My brain always in the back of my mind has Cartman singing in the beginning. But also, I've grown to it. Actually, Tom Sawyer re-listening to this album, not that I've ever listened to it before, but throughout the 2-week process was when I realized that I needed to not pay attention to Rush's lyrics to appreciate Rush.
They do write good lyrics.
Yeah, they're just fine though.
I don't think this album in particular is like a strong point lyrically, because there is kind of like a lot of weird nonsense going on. But their other albums are quite good lyrically.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I think this Moving Pictures is just like their most commercially successful album.
In one of the songs, it felt like he was just saying random things when he was singing. I don't remember which one. I remember thinking he's just saying random.
Well, in Red Barchetta, he talks a lot about his uncle and his farm, and which I mean that's like that's like a personal song for Geddy, but
there's I had read in my research of doing this because I wanted to learn more about Rush, even though I have I've always kind of appreciated them, even though I never deep dove. That was my first new song on this. Obviously, it's track 2, but like...
one you hadn't heard before.
Yeah, it was like a song that was written based off of a short story of somebody that had like wrote a story about them outlawing cars and like because of safety regulations and stuff. And, like, I think that concept sounds more interesting than what this song brought to the table, because it's really just like, I'm gonna drive this car. And that's fine.
When you boil it down,
coming from not a car guy, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the whole deal with Rush. Like, even though I just said that I do think they can, or they are capable, certainly, of writing good lyrics. I mostly just listen to it for the music itself. Like the instrumentals.
That's when I learned to appreciate Tom Sawyer, to go back, is when I was like, the end little parts where they're doing a bunch of drum runs and like crazy instrumentation. I was just like, okay, this is why this is Rush. Like, I need to pay attention to just the instruments and the vocals and not care about the lyrics. Like, go against everything I've ever taught myself in music.
Yeah, like Geddy Lee might as well just be there like blabbing nonsense. Yeah. Like he just like it's really just all about the instruments, and his voice is a part of that. Yeah. Like it's a huge part of that. But like what he's saying, like I don't know, it doesn't like necessarily. It's not their strong suit, I would say.
Not at all. Even 2112, something that I like go back to a lot and speak praise of, still has like a nonsense middle part where they're like acting like caveman towards a guitar, and it just seems cringy, but still really like that song. Just the way it's sang, I was just like, man, this could have been done better. I know that's the theme.
I mean, that's kind of just like a prog rock thing in general. A lot of their lyrics are just really out there, and don't like not just Rush, but the genre itself. But people don't listen to prog rock for the lyrics. No. They listen to the 10-minute long epic. You got the drum solos, the bass solos.
And to have a 3-member prog rock band is quite impressive. I don't have much to say about YYZ other than it being on Guitar Hero.
YYZ is great. Like, it's probably one of my favorite instrumental songs.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not one that ever goes back to instrumentals, but if I had to pick one, it probably would be YYZ. Not that rates it high on my scale, because again, instrumentals are like in the dumps for me.
I love like the dueling, like the bass solo plays, and then they'll do a little riff, and then the drum solo, and then they'll kind of like go off and on until eventually they come in with the big guitar.
Yeah. Yeah. Then Limelight is probably my favorite on this album by like a mile, and I don't even really can put into words why. It just is.
Limelight's really good. Yeah. But I will say it's like the least proggy of all the songs on this album.
Like by far my favorite on it. And again, I wish I could be like, this is why and this is why. I can't. I've got no reason for it. It just is.
I feel the same way, and Limelight is also my
I think there's just something about Limelight where as soon as that opening hits, you just know it's going to be a good song.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's the one I've known and have gone back to on this album. And then what goes into after that is what I feel like is a big drop off for the rest of this album.
The second half is the big like prog part.
Yeah.
Like if you don't really,
that's the problem.
If you're not into prog, you probably will not like the second half of this album.
Where Camera Eye is the midpoint. It's the longest song on it, and I don't feel like it has any reason to be. It's kind of the same song twice.
Okay,
it could have been 5 minutes.
I do really like the Camera Eye. It is a little bloated. I'll give you that. I don't think the intro bit needs to be as long as it is.
But it's
really good though. Like once you get past the slow build to it,
it's almost like it's like the same song mirrored, just about 2 different cities, which is cool in its own way. But it's not something I want to listen to for 10 minutes. But in random bits of trivia, it's the last 10-minute song they ever made.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I
they never released another one that's over 10 minutes after Camera Eye, which I found as interesting fun fact. There's no way.
I guess that's not like super surprising, because like after this album, like in the mid '80s, is when they kind of start going even more commercial, like trying to appeal to the masses and not just play their long epic prog pieces. So, I mean, that does check out.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like maybe there'd be a deep cut somewhere that.
I went through every album because I was like, "There's no way this is true." I was like, "It is." And they have a lot of albums after this.
Yeah.
So that was quite the task. I was like, I'm waiting for one, and there was none. There was one on it looked like an album that Apple Music had, or YouTube Music had that Apple Music didn't. So I didn't know if I should count it or not. But yeah, their last 10-minute plus long song. Then I don't really have much to say about the last two.
Well, hold on. Going back to the Camera Eye and Witch Hunt, which is the
next song.
The next song. They kind of have like a weird sinister vibe to them.
That's
right.
Which I appreciate. Like it adds a little bit of character to the album. Especially Witch Hunt, like the beginning of that, and then the guitar kind of like cuts in.
Yeah, I wrote it was my least favorite probably just because it was slower. But,
so the last track was actually my least favorite, Vital Signs.
Yeah, my second least favorite.
I like Vital Signs. I
It's,
don't remember why.
What stood out about Vital Signs?
Not a lot. I just like the last half of the album, like a bit more than the first half.
Okay, that's the opposite of how I feel.
So you're I mean, well, you're more into the prog stuff.
I like prog.
Yeah. So I mean, that makes sense.
I thought Vital Signs was way too short to have a filler ending.
Yeah, it kind of just ends.
It's 4 minutes long, and the last minute and a half is everybody got to blank over and over and over again. Like Elevate from the North or...
Yeah, he was just kind of rambling on just random shit.
It is actually the last minute and a half. And I was like, this song's only 4 minutes long to have a minute and a half of rambling. That's why I didn't like it.
It's the song I revisit the least from this album. Because, I don't know, once I... It's either I'll listen to it until Limelight's over if I don't feel like the prog section, or I'll listen to the prog section and I'm like, well, I guess I'll just finish out the album. You know?
It's only 4 more minutes.
Yeah. But no, I mean, overall, obviously Rush is a super iconic. Like they're probably the most well-known prog band, or I mean, they got to be up there.
They're up there for sure.
It's like them, or
if you count Pink Floyd.
Well, I was kind of on the fence because Pink Floyd's kind of like teeters the line of prog. Like they are definitely prog, but
you count. Yeah,
they're not like this kind of prog. Like I don't know. It's hard to put into words.
Yeah, it's either them or Floyd though.
Yeah.
Again, if you count Floyd. But overall, I went into this hearing that it's like one of the best albums ever, and I don't think I came out of that thinking that.
I was a little concerned when I was picking that because I figured you might have seen where it's like this is their most acclaimed album.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was hoping that wouldn't set your expectations maybe a little too high.
I was thinking I was gonna like it more than 2112, and I definitely don't.
I would say 2112 has higher highs but also lower lows.
Yeah, I get that. But I also just feel like the worst that is on 2112, like the latter half where it's like Welcome to Bangkok and like the other songs that nobody knows, is better than like Vital Signs on here. Which is where my brain is trying to fluctuate. But also, we record these now and they're on the internet and it's not just a group chat. So having a music review podcast, I feel like it's a crime to not talk about them as like perfect people.
I mean, I don't think I'm going to get arrested for it.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to talk bad about Rush. I like Rush. It's probably the band, at least 2112, I go back to the most. That's like from before the 2000s. But yeah, I was expecting more. I was expecting not to only like the first half.
It's weird. The album sometimes feels too short and also too long.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys
I do get that.
have that same.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, because when on the surface it's 7 songs, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's not very long, but then you get to the Camera Eye and it's.
I was quite surprised.
Like, you're gonna be here for a minute.
I was quite surprised that it was only 7 songs when we clicked on it. Like, you guys had left before I downloaded any of these. I was like, oh, this is only 7. But I was like, it is Rush. It's still 40 minutes. I think the shortest song is probably 4 minutes and a half.
I think it's Limelight. That might be the shortest song. Either that or Vital Signs.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing you guys could say about this I would probably disagree with unless somebody said it was just altogether bad.
No, I don't think anybody
Yeah.
is saying that. I don't think.
But I feel
I don't
like
know if
there's
it's
a lot.
possible for Rush to make like god awful music.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't.
I mean, I admittedly have not listened to every single song they've
That's
made.
a lot.
But, like for a group of these three guys, they're gonna come out with more good stuff than bad.
Yeah, that's what I was mostly impressed with doing research, was that it was 3 people and that Neil Peart does most of the writing. And I was like, I've never really heard of a drummer doing most of the writing. Ever. If you guys have any other closing thoughts, maybe? Because I don't have anything else. It's the one I had the least to say about.
Nothing like that I've thought beforehand, but like I kind of had the ratings down for your guys' albums, but not mine.
Yeah.
Like I don't really know what to rate Moving Pictures as a whole album.
I kind of feel the same way.
Well, I went with a 6, if you guys wanted more inspiration. I wrote 6 or so, but since I'm first, I'll go with 6.
I mean,
also I guess I have never run over this. My rating scale, I normally start like if I have nothing to say either way, it's a 5.
yeah,
Like,
that's kind of
if I come out of this like not thinking it's horrible or good, and I'm just like, this exists as a thing, it's a 5. So anything more than that's good.
And also,
anything,
yes, I was gonna say a 5 is not a bad score.
No.
In our grading rubric.
It's like right in the middle.
Like a 5 is like average, or
Yeah.
maybe slightly above average.
So like it might be sacrilegious on like an IGN scale, maybe to call
like IGN
call something like this.
Yeah, on the IGN scale, they get ripped apart for giving a game a 7.
Yeah.
But like, if someone gives your album a 5 in this group, it's like that's a W.
Like like a 7 is something I'll go back to a lot and that I do really like. A 6 is something that I liked half of it, the other half didn't get me as much, so it didn't detract from it, but it also didn't add. So
it
6.
could have been better. Like like it has had the potential.
Still good.
Yeah. I'll go with an 8. I don't think it's a perfect album by any stretch, but also it's Rush. Like, it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
It's a really easy listen, even though I said sometimes it can feel a little too long. There's just like a lot of classics on here. Like I know you were really only familiar with
3 of them.
3 songs. Well, 3 out of the 7. Like
that's good.
Pretty good. And like I knew like Red Barchetta and stuff like the first time I listened to this album, which was years ago. But I mean I'll land on an 8.
I think that seems fair.
I think I'll give it a 6.5.
That puts it at like a weird like 7.3.
Yeah, and I'm like right in between like 6 and 7. So
we are at a 6.8.
No, never mind. I went a little bit high.
So, that's a good. I'll take it.
I'm gonna cut it out because my math was wrong.
You're gonna make yourself look smart.
I'm gonna make me look real smart.
So that means Aaron West is next.
It is.
Jumping forward like 40 years.
Yeah. Funny thing about like just time in general that I noticed with Aaron West earlier is that when I was looking at like the space in between albums, I was like, wow, he waited 5 years to release this one. It seems like they're releasing them more frequently than I thought about it. And I was like, 2024 was 5 years ago. That's when the newest one came out. Like, that's another 5 years. It's the same amount of time.
I didn't know that last part. I was actually going to bring that up in my review once we get into it.
The same amount of time had passed. And I was like, I thought it was just because my brain is like, maybe it's pandemic stuff. But like, my brain does not compute that 2020 and like
pandemic. The 2020 is like a whole era. Like
yeah, it was.
Or like even then, I found the most amount of my music that I listen to now during the pandemic. But that being said, it just seems like a blur. And 2019 seems like it was 2 years.
It feels
ago.
like it was a life. Well, for me, it feels like it was a lifetime ago.
No, I have the opposite where I was like, oh, Aaron West is coming out with more stuff more frequently. Exact same amount of time. And actually, there wasn't an EP this time. Oh, I forgot to say my opening stuff about Rush.
Oh, you had stuff.
Darn.
Put this in the front.
No, I'm not. I'm going to leave it at the end.
All right.
Unprofessionalism is my key. They're at 4 million monthly listeners on Spotify, and this album came out February 12th of 1981.
That's the same as Brockhampton list.
It is.
I guess I got a little theme going on.
I did learn after I wrote that you can scroll down a little bit further and see like the exact number, and I just kept it what it was.
That's cool. 4 million people were still
listening to Rush.
I
think it's been like
on Spotify anyway.
Yeah, that's the biggest one. That's the only one that gives like numbers like that. YouTube Music combines video listens and the or YouTube Music listens as like one, and it's weird. Like the likes are from the video.
The real old timers are listening to Rush on their vinyls.
Yeah, I mean they do cool stuff with them with the little hologram guy. So to get into what we normally do at the beginning, also Aaron West and the Roaring Twenties are at 52,000 monthly listeners, so much less.
Did you? I would say, did you compare them to the Wonder Years?
Wonder Years is at 583,000, I think. So not very close at all. This one also came out 5 years after the first one, which we talked about, on May 10th of 2019. Much smaller, again, is my trend, apparently. So normally we put this at the beginning of the episode, but I've seen them since the last time we record. Like I went and experienced Aaron West live, which was a lot of fun and a different concert experience than something I've ever dealt with before.
Now, I feel like this band works because of their albums. Like, like they tell a story. Like, how does that translate into a concert experience?
So just contrasting between this and the Wonder Years, which I almost feel like is a crime to do anymore, having seen Aaron West live. Normally see Aaron West in like 2,500 capacities or so, like sometimes 1,000, but like if it's like an anniversary show, which they've been doing a lot lately, it's normally a bigger venue. This held 200, and the band he had traveling with them was already 9 of them. So like anybody that's friends with me on Facebook or anything knows I was 2 rows back. Like I could see the stage from, like, I have nobody in front of me in my videos I took. Being that close to Dan was really cool. And just to see
that's probably the closest you've been to him.
Yeah, even though I've seen him like every 6 months for the last 3 years. Somehow they're just always around here. It was really cool. Had a couple openers where, like, their name was, like, Marion Weaver. I could be getting that wrong. But Normally Has a Band was the first person out on stage. And it said, like, I know Dan from 15 years ago. And the audience gasped because they used the real name. And I was like, oh, this is going to be like this. You don't say the real name during the show.
Because he's Aaron West.
Yeah. So that was the only time his actual name was brought up for the whole rest of it. The rest of the bands had mentioned, there were 3 of them, but had mentioned touring with the Wonder Years, but never brought up the connection between
the Wonder Years with this strangely suspicious front man.
Yeah, that looks and sounds exactly like Aaron West. They must be brothers. But as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, this almost seems like a crime that I've spent a whole podcast comparing the 2. They're not the same. This album... He also did crowd work and character as well, which is like to be expected. But I was almost not expecting talking at all because of the character aspect of this show. We're like, it's not like they're playing skits or like whatever, but he was like, hey, how was everybody's 2014? Mine was real bad.
Oh.
Like... talking about stories that have happened to him, but in that you would know from having the albums listened to. It was a very interesting experience. Also, first time ever seeing like a big band concert where there were 9 people on stage and 13 instruments, and it was a lot. I almost wish I was on the other side because I was next to an accordion player, the bassist from the opening band they took our...
Yeah, because usually when we see concerts, it's like, I don't know, 5 people, maybe 6 max on stage.
To spoil the future album, Catherine joined the band. But I was next to that character, the girl that is playing piano. His sister, if you wanted. And then the drummer, which the drummer is one of the guitar players from the Wonder Years, which I thought was cool, that he could just swap instruments. I was like, hey, that guy looks familiar. I know him. The other side was a guitar player and 3 people that were changing between a banjo, a saxophone, a trombone, and a trumpet. And it was really cool just to see like the guys back there all like trading instruments and jumping on different things. I wish I was next to the horn section. Is what I'm saying.
That might have been loud.
It was cool. Yes.
Routine maintenance.
Did you guys listen to the EP at all?
I did not, but I feel like I should have.
Okay, so the EP,
because I was a little lost.
Yeah. So the EP is called Bittersweet, I think. It's 3 songs long. What you missed out on is that the first song, he goes back to the payphone from Divorce, the American South song from the first album, and calls his mom to ask for information about his dad's car so that he could sell it. And sold it to a guy named Robert that had it with his wife before she had died. So gave it to him for a cheaper price than he was asking for. Basically just asked to pay back his mom for everything. The Thunderbird Inn, which is the hotel he ran from, and then like to buy a phone is essentially, and a bus ticket to get back home. The next song, he goes back home to his then apartment, and the locks are changed. Like his old apartment with his wife. Going through that, but then when the door opens after knocking it, it's a guy that's been subletting it, and it's not even, nothing is still there other than a couch and his coat, which he ends up taking. Then the next song is just the dealing with that. Essentially. Nothing really detrimental to the story happens. And then there's a single called Orchard Park, where they spread his father's ashes on Orchard Park, or in Orchard Park. That's kind of the song. He brings up Sammy, whatever his last name, the Bills wide receiver, that is brought up in this album.
Oh, I didn't know that's who he was referring to. Sammy Watkins?
Yeah.
Huh.
Orchard Park, at the end of it, he says that basically the Bills are about to get this kid named Sammy. Heard he's pretty good.
I was going to say Orchard Park. That sounds familiar. I'm like, I think that's like a Buffalo thing.
Yeah.
Well,
also
this is a dated album then, Sammy Watkins.
It says in the album that since the year since it happened, Sammy's been traded to LA then to Kansas.
Yeah. I'd say I don't think he's in the league
anymore. That's that line.
I didn't know who they were referring to. I thought it was like a baseball thing.
So Aaron, as a character, comes out in a Bills uniform and stuff. They're Bills fans. He talks in the last album about having his dad's Bills hat, stuff like that. While it's got to be hard to wear as a sports fan because Dan Campbell is a Philly fan.
Well, at least it's not like a division. Right?
No. It's probably why it's easy for him to do.
Yeah, he didn't make him a Cowboys fan.
Coming out and but yeah, getting into this album, catching up on the story and whatnot. The first song is kind of the catch up, where he's saying that he has moved to Asbury Park, found a job. There's the line where he said he smiled for the first time in a year. And I was like, hey, we're about to get a happy song. Because I haven't listened to this before doing this. I try to shove it in so I could know it before the concert, is the thought process of doing this so fast. I was like, hey, we're about to get the first happy song canonically in this. So then it ends with, I've been smoking again. Something will kill me. Why not that?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're back to Aaron West now.
It's not that cheerful.
No. Actually, do you guys have anything to say before we get into other songs?
About the intro specifically?
Sure.
Or just the album?
Background more,
Because I kind of just had my thoughts on the album itself, not super individual songs.
So this is in between The Wonder Years, Sister Cities, and Hum Goes On Forever. Just for canonical sake of what Dan's doing musically.
How he's writing.
Yeah. You can definitely feel Sister Cities' influences on this a lot. And even songs in Hum that sound like this as well, which is I think personally that Dan Campbell has gotten better with time. I've liked every song or album of theirs, maybe with Greatest Generation being shoved up in the mix because I do think that is better than the in-between stuff, but I feel like him and the band personally have gotten better with time. Hum Goes On Forever is my favorite Wonder Years album. So with this being in between those and there being influences, I think that this album is much better musically than the first. I think there's more.
I will say I think they do have more going on instrumentally for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I don't know if maybe it was the 5-year gap in between the writing process, but I just couldn't really get into the story much with this album, like I could on the first one.
It is definitely a little more complicated.
Yeah, like I didn't know if like
it's
maybe...
more than just like a singular focus.
Right.
Like, hey, here's a sad year. It's more like here's actually what's happening now.
Like on the first album we did, it was kind of very cut and dry. Like, this is Aaron West, and this is a song about how he has to sleep in his freezing car and stuff. But like this has a little more layers, and it was kind of harder to follow, I thought.
Yeah, I warned you guys that was going to happen too. Because I know the last one is more complicated than even this one, but I still like it more. I wrote down my review as in what is happening in the story at each song, and then making like notes about the music. But I was going to say beforehand that I think the music and the using of all the 15 people that play in this band is much better in this one, where there are more songs that I can be like, okay, here's everybody, than the first where it's like mostly acoustic guitar.
Yeah, I will say, like there's quite a few like brass sections, and then there's like a harmonica bit.
So getting into that, Just Sign This Papers is actually my favorite chorus up to this point that they had made, where like I feel like the whole band is there, and like you can hear all the instruments going, and like it's upbeat, and it's definitely my favorite chorus up to this point.
on that note, Just Sign the Papers was my favorite song on this album.
Yeah, they had played it live. I guess I could probably say when they're doing this or going through it, but they had played this one live, and it's probably my favorite from it too. On a purely musical basis, like the story also, like it carries it. It's the actual divorce of the
I did figure that one out. That one was pretty easy to follow.
But yeah, there's like the accidentally calling Diane honey and admitting he should have just let them get divorced sooner, not like ran away. The next song is Bloodied Up in a Bar Fight, which I don't know for sure if it is a direct happening from the signing of papers or not, but could have been. But that one, he gets in a fight at home or around that area with some guys that are apparently in a gang of some sort, it seems like. And the cops basically tell him that he should run, which then, in the later half of this song, it brings up Aaron's sister, Catherine, for the first time. And in my brain, I was like, oh no, if somebody's written into a Aaron West story, it's probably not going to end good for them. I was like, something's going to happen. And then just foreshadowing.
Not really an optimist.
No, foreshadowing it, I was like, oh no, something's happening. Catherine's being written into the story and named for a reason.
Oh yeah, I mean that's you don't introduce a character just to,
and say that they have a husband and son,
just to do nothing with them.
The line about not wanting to mess up his sister's family when the cops ask him like where he can go it seemed deep. Bury Me Anywhere Else was the song that I didn't care about much for until seeing it, because it didn't add much to the actual story other than like the leaving. Like it just is a leaving song. But live in a live perspective, it's a more upbeat like song that you need to keep a crowd going, kinda.
So like you don't really get it necessarily just in the album context. It makes more sense live.
Just because I'm a lyrical person or try to look for lyrics, it just doesn't. The only thing it adds is that he's moving to California and being optimistic about it, like in a sense of a story. But in the actual like live setting, it really stands out. There's a sax solo.
There is. I do remember that.
I like it more live, but I always just look for this group to be a storytelling more than music for some reason in my brain. Like it's broken. I don't know how to review this. It's like reviewing a show.
Yeah, it's like looking at a play almost.
Like it's like here is a story and here's every step of the story, but also music. You're reviewing music in your podcast. Rosa and Rosetta is the next one, and it the first time that I choked up on this album or like listening to it, I was like, I had to take a second. Just the line at the end where he says, "When I needed a friend, Rosa was a friend." And for some reason, it got to me. But there's also the similes and like what he's saying. If you look slightly deeper into it, like was much more shown on the first album. But this one has the we used to smoke on the fire escape, and now we just smoke in the living room. Like, if you look more into it, just like not caring about what you have. It's like we have this, but also who cares if it smells like smoke? And it is also in the story nonsense of all of this, where he is told to pursue music, where he's been saying throughout the last couple of things that he's been singing at open mics and stuff like that. Songs that he wrote, which was the last album.
Like,
so
in the canon of Aaron West.
So this little middle part of the album is what makes the live shows kind of make sense, where he, in this song, gets told to go start a band, kind of, or like go pursue music. The next song is him touring and finding his band. And then the next song after that is like the camaraderie building and friendship building, like spray painting 20s on stuff, and another big band moment where like everybody's there. But then also, to say what I said earlier about Catherine being written into this album for some reason, this is the one where he gets told that Catherine's moving back home because her husband's sick. So I was like, hey, I knew it.
Yeah, I mean, that was the hanging thread there, the loose end.
Yeah. Next song, I just wrote them in order because it's a story, and I feel like you can't skip because you'll just be missing part of the story. Wildflower Honey is probably my least favorite. Just just to pick apart a song where, like we said on the first one, it was hard to find least favorites and favorites because it is a running thing. Wildflower Honey also sounds a lot like Sister Cities. A lot of the songs on that album, if you ever listen to it. And also, I made you guys listen to Hum Goes On Forever. If you remember the song Laura and the Beehive, also sounds a lot like that.
I think that was also one of my least favorite.
It's just a slower. A lot of the instruments are the same in those. And it seems like a cut that could have been off of either of those albums, and it would feel right at home, even though it's a different band. But yeah, it doesn't add anything to the story really, other than that he's on tour and he finds his band. The met some guys in Philly and said they would join the band for free beer and the chance to see things they never seen. That's really the only line that progresses the story at all. Running Towards the Light is another song where it doesn't really add, but seeing it live added a lot to it for me. Where again, it's really upbeat, and this
was my second favorite on the album, just because it's more upbeat and memorable, I guess. Like, there are quite a few just downer, just down tempo singer songwriter type songs on this album. This not being one of them. It's this is, again, you get the brass. This song's very Bruce Springsteen-esque. I don't know if you guys are super familiar with his music, but
not really.
I read online, it's he took a lot of inspiration from Springsteen for not just the song, but the album in general.
Yeah, it's probably the first happy song that Aaron West has had in the whole lineage of this up to this point, where it's just a trip, being in a band song. So yeah, mostly Jersey.
What was that?
What?
Why'd you get up?
Oh, I just moved my foot.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't comfy.
I thought you were going somewhere.
We're in metal seats. It's not very comfy after a little bit.
They are quite uncomfortable.
Bring a seat cushion over next time.
So then, what is next starts what we're used to with Aaron West with the last album part of the story, where it's just sad after this. Got in the Billboard says honky tonk, which I never actually thought I would ever have an album in this whole thing that ever said that word.
Well,
but
joke's on you.
This is basically the Catherine song, for most part. It's the song where she calls him and he says, "I already knew by the moment I picked up the phone that her husband had died," and it's just the "If you need me, I'm coming home" line. He's back home. It's the Catherine song. They played this one live too, and was like, "This one's for my sister Catherine," and pointed towards who's playing Catherine.
So not to get too off topic of the album, but how do they split their set? Do they play? like a couple songs
I was
first, and then this, and then
I was planning on saying this when I talked about the band song, but Dan Campbell said that he had wrote Aaron West as starting a band because playing live felt wrong without it being a part of the story that there is a band. So they play as Aaron West and the Roaring Twenties, and these songs are things that happen to the lead singer of that band. And he wrote them; they're real songs. Like
but like when they're actually playing, like
they don't do them in order. They do it like
they just do it in a random. Like,
like this is a song about this. This is a song like they're played like any other normal band would do it. Like where it would make sense to do them in order, but in the concept, I think, of having a fictional band that's real, make it seem like a real band. They do it out of order, kind of thing.
I mean,
it's not a story.
Ultimately, if you're going to a concert, you're not there to like listen to a story. You're there for the live music.
Essentially, from the first album, they played like the first 5 songs. They did the actual Getting Papers. They opened with Our Apartment, which is the first song. Then did like later on had done like Divorce in American South, St. Joe's Keeps Us Safe, and whatever other one. Basically the whole like Our Apartment, Grapefruit, St. Joe's, or maybe Running is the next one, where the live concert takes them all the way to to Carolina, and then you don't really hear like this Hanging Out or the Thunderborn Inn stuff. Or this one, they played Got into Billboards, Running Towards the Light, Just Sign the Papers, and Bury Me Anywhere Else. And then it was a tour for the latest album, so they played like 9 off of that, but not in any particular order. One of the EP songs was the encore, so like, yeah. They did end the concert with the last 2 from the last album other than the encore. But then Winter Coats, and I'm going to just group them. Routine Maintenance was the most like choked up I got for any music like ever.
Really?
Yeah. Not that I ever actually have cried to music, but I came really close with Routine Maintenance just to like really put myself on the line. Winter Coats is the husband or brother-in-law's funeral and the seeing his nephew for the first time since he was a kid and just like stepping up and showing him how to play the organ kind of thing. There's a simile with a winter coat, and that's why it's called that. But like, that's really that song. But then, Routine Maintenance is it's like a, hey, my family's in turmoil, I'm gonna stick around and help. And like, there's a whole verse dedicated to how to do an oil change. And if you would have told me that would be like the saddest song I've ever heard or the song that gets me the most, I would have never.
And it's also like the last song on the album.
They honestly probably could have ended the whole Aaron West thing here. I'm happy they didn't. But it ends with like, I think I found where the light is, and like just like an actually happily ended thing, where he says, I'm gonna be someone you can count on for a change, is the last line. I was like, hey, that's a nice way to end this. But this album as a whole is a good middle for a story.
Which, it's interesting that you say that, because I think that's what my biggest issue with the album is. Because, okay, right, like, so you got a story, and it's like, the beginning, it hooks you in.
Yeah.
That's what gets you interested. The ending has to, like, leave you satisfied.
Yeah.
And maybe even wanting more, but, like, it has to, like, stick the landing. But then the middle is just kind of, like... Mm-hmm. Just the mesh of, you know, whatever, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, that's any trilogy kind of thing.
Which is that's my point. Like I think this was not as strong, or I just wasn't as crazy about it as I was the first one because because I know it's like the middle in a trilogy.
Yeah, it definitely is that. It has a bit of the middle stuff. I like the last song could have ended there. I'm happy it didn't, but like. It's definitely the middle. I don't know if he wrote it knowing that it was going to be the middle. But it definitely has the same kind of like... I would say the musical aspects of it make me do like it more than the first. Just because I'm like, this is more...
It has its peaks and valleys, but also it's like, you know, there's kind of like... They probably have more stuff saved, and, you know, for the finale.
I would see that missing the EPs would kind of make the beginning confusing.
But yes. It sure did. Like I said, I wish I would have listened to them before.
Yeah, they were only like 18 minutes.
I
just didn't want to say it because we had 2 weeks with this, and I was like, I'm not going to add extra stuff. But yeah, I ended up liking this one more than the first. Not in like a story aspect, but like because it's a music podcast and we're listening to music, I like the music more. I think it is betterly written musically. Just to go along with like Dan Campbell getting better as well, I believe.
Which, I mean, I like his Greatest Generation era of writing more. So like, I guess that checks out why I prefer an album that was written around that same time.
But yeah, I don't have. It's kind of just the story for me. I don't know. I really like it. If I could combine Aaron West and the Wonder Years as one band and like make it a thing, it would probably be my favorite band. They both separately are like really high up there, but they're not the same, even though they have the same vocalist that I'm not allowed to say is the same vocalist.
Like on the first album, I'm like, well, this is mostly just acoustic Wonder Years, but on this one, they kind of stepped into more of their own thing. Like
they definitely feed more into the big band stuff.
Yeah,
like there's an organ solo and a saxophone solo, and there's actually definitely a horn section that wasn't as prominent with the first.
Right. Like it was there, but it wasn't as prominent.
Rosa and Rosetta, if I'm saying that correctly, is the first time I've ever heard a song successfully use a train horn as an instrument. Like it's anything. It's I find it really cool. They made a merch around this, or a set of shirt around this time that actually showed all the instruments that they made during the album process, or maybe it was the latest one. It's just a shirt full of different instruments.
Like trombones, and saxophones.
Yeah, it's just it's really interesting. It's just something I've never really experienced. I never got into big band stuff. It has just enough depression and still like the same pop punk vocalist kind of thing that like I really am gravitating towards it. I'm having a hard time wanting to listen to anything else. It's not Aaron West right now.
Well, you're on that kick, like you just saw them live.
It has become an obsession of mine.
You see a band live and it's kind of like...
Normally that's the end of my obsession, though. Like normally that's the peak, and I'm just diving more into it.
You also go to a lot of concerts, so.
Also, just to talk about the live concert experience again, that was the nicest crowd I've ever been with too, ever. Like it's not even close.
Yeah, I mean this band, it's very niche.
Where like people were thinking that I heard some people talking behind me because I go to these alone, so I eavesdrop, which probably shouldn't, but. And they're like, hey, do people go crazy for Aaron West? And he's like, oh, I don't know. He's like, I definitely go crazy for the Wonder Years. And
yeah, that's what I'm like. It's like to get this band, you kind of have to already be familiar with the Wonder Years. Like no one's just showing up to this blind.
Yeah, there's even like members and stuff, but like every opening act for this concert, it was the girl I had talked about in a band called Future Teens, which I've learned to appreciate a lot since seeing them as well. Which like I'm trying to get more into, but I've only want to listen to Aaron West right now. They were also really good, but every opening act was just like, this is the greatest crowd we've ever played for. Where like normally the opening band you're playing and people are talking the whole time, and like I'm stopping playing and tuning my guitars and silence. It was really neat. Dan Campbell in a small a small show is also really interesting to see. Where like he could talk to individual audience members, where like they started playing Divorce in the American South, and somebody in the back, it was one of the later songs, somebody in the back of the crowd went, oh my god. They Dan like completely broke and was just like on the floor laughing, like I've never seen a response for this song like that.
He broke character.
Not even, he was like, man, this is a song about me talking to my ex-wife in a phone booth, and you're like, oh my god, I want to hear that. He's like, do you want to come to the front? And they parted the aisle and let her come to the front.
It's like Moses parting the Red Sea just for this guy to hear a song about divorce.
It was very funny. And then like they were doing the whole thing where it was a small venue, so they didn't have anywhere to go do an encore or like act like they were leaving the stage. There's 9 of them.
Yeah, that'd be kind of an awkward encore exit.
He did a whole thing where he was like, hey, normally we get off stage, we play 2 more songs. But we don't have anywhere to go, so we're just gonna act like you guys got off stage and you guys cheered and whatnot. And one of the guys, he's like, let's just assume you guys want to hear 2 more songs or 4 more songs. He did it 2 songs before the end. And some guy behind me was like, no, play 2. He was like, wait, what? And there was an emo night that was going to start after that. And Dan Campbell had made jokes like, I know you guys are all just here waiting for emo night, but we got 4 more songs. He's like, no, play 2. He's like, you want me to play 2? It was really fun. Just crowd interactions with a guy that I never had experienced crowd interactions with. He thrived in a small setting.
When you have a concert about divorce at 7,
Yeah.
but emo night at 9.
Yeah.
But
I guess when they do like meet and greets and stuff after these, he stays in character. Like he's Aaron when he's on this tour. I heard one of the band members saying like Dan outside afterwards, and I was like, that's Aaron. After the first lady came on stage and said Dan, and the audience gasped, I was like, oh, I'm not allowed to.
You're not allowed to say that.
They are different, and there's no comparison.
What if you call him Soupy? Like,
I don't know.
Is that the same? Like...
I don't think so, because it's West, it's not Campbell. Timmy, what do you have to say?
I don't know. I mean, I like this album more than the previous album, like of Aaron West.
Because going into the last one, you said that you didn't recognize that it was a story until...
Yeah, I still didn't follow the story.
You don't have to.
Very well at all.
This one
a little bit
harder.
better than last time. Well, I think the music overall is also just better. I thought it was way more enjoyable.
So since that, if you guys want to score, I have mine. So
Okay. Like I said, I wasn't like as jazzed about this album as I was the previous one, but I am curious because I'm sure you're probably gonna pick the final album of this at some point to see how it all ends. No.
I will.
I didn't mean today. I meant like at some point.
So to go behind the curtain, I was absolutely going to.
Oh.
I was absolutely going to go straight into Aaron West 3. Not that it's called that, but like. And then like 2 days ago, I was like, it's summer. I should probably go into like more upbeat, like summery stuff. I'm going to pick Aaron West again this year. It's just going to be in the temperature that probably suits it best.
So like fall,
yeah.
Winter.
It came out in the spring. So like. That's kind of what I'm shooting for. But this year, I'm not going to leave you guys hanging on the ending of this story, or what is now the ending of this story.
But yeah, I mean, like, so I guess I'm kind of the opposite of you guys, where I preferred the first album to this, but
I can understand.
I don't I don't think it's bad by any means. I just had a harder time getting into this. I don't know if that's a me thing or like the album thing.
They play less songs off it live, so like I'm sure it's just.
Like,
altogether less popular.
Like I said, it's like the middle, of a trilogy. I'll go with just like a slightly, above average 5.5. Like,
all right.
Like obviously I don't hate it.
Yeah.
But
So
I am curious to see how it ends.
I give it a 6.
Okay, I'm going 9.
I kind of figured you might.
I did 8.5 with the last one.
Yeah, I figured you might bump it up a little bit.
I think I gave it like a 5 last time.
Definitely going higher.
Would you give it a 6 to me?
Yeah.
Somehow, despite being a more upbeat altogether album,
this has the same exact rating as
Moving
Pictures.
Let's keep it going.
Oh wow.
Somehow being if you take song by song a lyrically more upbeat album, I somehow got more choked up with this one. It's like the family dynamic of it all.
So for the first few days of listening to this album, I was saying her name wrong. I kept calling her Chappell Roan.
Yeah,
like
as
in Dave Chappelle, but then I realized that it's Chappell. Okay.
Yeah, I got corrected like yesterday or the day before, but Chappell Roan at 29.4 million monthly listeners. This came out September 22nd of 2023.
And it did not have nearly the amount of listeners like when it released, I bet.
I'm sure.
Like, because this is kind of like, it almost feels like this album came out this year with the amount
blowing
of news I've heard about her.
I think she's currently or maybe just opened up for Olivia Rodrigo, which is probably helping a lot.
Yeah, I think it was either like before the album came out or like I did see that though, like she was touring with Olivia.
But I'm sure that's what is going on. I think the Guts tour is still going. This one's the one I'm most scared about because it's kind of all over the place, and she's currently popular, and I don't really want to say. I have a problem with pop music as of late that is represented on this album. And I feel like I'm going to be harder on this album than I actually want to be because I want to prove a point.
Well, I don't know what that means, but
I have no idea what he's talking about.
Should we save you for later then? Or?
No, I went song to song again.
Okay. Well,
because
I was gonna say I don't know if we want to dive into all 14 tracks. Because that's
maybe I don't know.
It is a little bloated.
I wrote very little about everything because I didn't have much to say, but I wanted to say everything about something about everything because it's kind of all over the place. Where there's different sounds on the same song, and like I'm already sounding more negative than I want to be. But that's not my goal going into this. So if there's any background you guys want to say, we kind of got into it earlier before we actually start ripping
background about
apart.
Her
or just past experience.
Our thoughts on it. I don't think anybody has any past experience besides.
You picked it. Do you have anything?
I don't know.
Did you listen to it beforehand? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit.
Like literally, all I know about her was she was blowing up, and then Timmy picked the album like a few weeks later.
For some reason, you guys keep saying stuff, and I keep making my jokes I made in the last episode where I was like, "Oh man, that's unfortunate."
Oh yeah,
she blew up.
But like.
And that the album name is My Life Story.
Her songs would like pop up on my YouTube recommendations a lot, so I ended up listening to it. I think the first song of hers I've heard was like Red Wine Supernova. And
I wanted to. My brain's going crazy. I wanted to.
Much like the album in your mind.
I wanted to go into this as like a transition where, as soon as Aaron West stopped, that song played. Like, that was the exit song for them.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
like at the concert?
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as they, like, stopped playing 67 Cherry Red, which was the encore song, they went straight into, like, their, like, goodbyes, bows and stuff, and they were playing Red Wine Supernova.
It's like a 1 in a million thing. Like,
wow.
Yeah, that's a really...
I didn't catch it at first.
Really
I was like, hey, I have a connection with the albums that we picked this week. I forgot to do that transition, though, so go right into it.
Okay.
Red Wine Supernova.
I guess that was good that we did your album. And
that's actually why I wanted to do it that way. And then I forgot that I had that in mind.
All right, proceed.
Anyway, I heard Red Wine Supernova first, and then like I heard the line, it's like where I have a wand and a
the magic wand part, yeah.
And I thought that line was really funny.
And then that's what made you pick the album.
No, that was just my first experience with Chappell Roan.
Have you ever listened to Hollywood and Dead?
I don't know what that is.
So, man,
I actually I don't know where you're going with this. Like,
I don't
so to start,
I do know Hollywood Undead.
I wrote in mine that the "Let's Make This Bed Get Squeaky" line is a Hollywood Undead line. They make the same song.
I'm sure that there's probably there's quite a few people that have.
Yeah, I was just like, man, that's just Hollywood Undead, which I was just like, I didn't like that line. That was the one part of that song I didn't like.
What, really?
The bad part of the magic one.
The whole little like I've got roommates. So when this album started, with Feminine Nomenon.
God, I had such a hard time saying this song like in my brain. Yeah. I still can't say it right. So Feminine Nomenon. Is that it?
I'm surprised I could say it because of a speech impediment. I got it down. So in a world past folklore, gonna bring it back to Taylor Swift.
She was gonna come up at some point, whether it was me or you bringing her up.
I feel like that album has made pop music bad. Where pop music, in my mind, is supposed to be poppy and like upbeat and fun, and everything that she has done since then, Taylor Swift, has not been any of that, in my personal opinion. I like to call it minimalistic pop, where like there's like a fake instrument barely there, and then just a girl kind of singing above it, is kind of how I felt about Taylor Swift's like last 4 albums. I liked Folklore the most of those, for sure. I feel like
not like I don't even really consider that a pop album.
Yeah. But Midnight's and her newest are pop albums that take that formula, is kind of how I look at it. Again, obviously I'm in the minority. She's huge. This is not a popular opinion.
Oh, speaking, did you guys see where Billie Eilish dethroned Taylor on
cool.
Spotify?
Yeah, I did see that.
Bringing it back to last week.
And I thought that was going to be the one where I took my approach on pop music, but I actually liked that album more than I thought I would going into it.
Folklore, you're talking about?
No, Hit Me Hard and Soft.
Billie Eilish, yeah.
Where I was going into that when you picked it, like, oh man, I'm going to have to talk about my irritation with modern pop music. Because I like pop music. I think it's fun enough. Not something I ever, like, choose to go to. I feel like people do it better than who's popular kind of thing. But I like the world, like, 10 years ago where, like, I miss, like, Fame Monster.
Like,
and,
like how Lady Gaga.
Like Disturbia and... Like,
I mean,
just,
I guess that's longer than 10 years
yeah,
ago.
but, like, even like in a weirder note, like we were at a party yesterday and Party in the USA played, and I was like, man, this is better than most pop music I've listened to lately. And there's a handful, even on this album, there's more upbeat things. But when this started with another, what I felt like is just another Taylor Swift clone with the first verse, I was like, I rolled my eyes. I was like, man, I'm gonna have to listen to this, and I'm not gonna like it. But then she says let's play something with a fucking beat line. I was like, hey, there's a beat. Never mind. Throw everything I just thought out the window on the first verse. This is going to be better than I thought. But then in the same song, she goes back to that same boring, minimalistic thing that I don't like.
Well, that's kind of the whole point of this song.
And it's just good.
It's the back and forth.
So then to skip a whole lot, just to keep with my negative trend that I'm going with. Well, actually, to go, I don't know where I want to go with this. Red Wine Supernova and After Midnight are my two favorites on this album. They're the second and third. They had me having very high hopes for this, where I was like, hey, the first song's just going to be like almost rips on itself, where I was like, play something with a beat. I was like, okay, she's going to be what I want pop music to be. I really like those two songs. Let alone like the let's make this bed squeaky line. It's not bad enough to where I don't like the song. I do like the song. They're fun and they're upbeat and they're what I think pop music should be. That's where my positives end, just to get ahead of myself. I like those two songs.
Red Wine and
the rest of them have choruses or verses that I like a lot, but as soon as kind of like what I said with Brockhampton, where like I'll like a song and then something would happen where I'm like, oh man, this is annoying now. But I'm more negative with this one.
Well, yeah, with Brockhampton, there was more variety.
Yeah.
Like, because of all the different members and stuff.
I was going to get into my most negative thing next. So if you guys have positives,
I do have positives.
Okay.
I was actually pretty positive on this album. Way more than I thought I would be. Like I said, I was not really super familiar with her. I heard her name. I've seen this album cover. It was like on the news or something, like people were talking about.
Fun.
Like up and coming stars. And I'm like, okay, I'll go keep an eye on her. And then Timmy picked it. I'm like, okay, well, here's my chance to check it out. And so I guess I'll go with my pros and cons. Pros, I think all the pop upbeat songs are really good. Even you didn't like Femininomenon.
The first song.
I think it's fine.
The first song. I do like that song.
Yeah.
I like all of the pop.
I don't like the verses.
I like that song, Red Wine, After Midnight, Hot to Go, but and on and on. The cons, I don't care much for the singer-songwriter slower songs as much.
I mean, that's kind of what I said, so.
Well, like
I might be more negative.
Like Kaleidoscope, Casual Coffee.
Yeah.
They're okay. I don't think they're her strength. I think her strength is making a really accessible, but also kind of unique take on pop, which you said it's not like... You said everyone's kind of like trying to be like Taylor.
Yes.
I don't really think she's... there are definitely Taylor influences on the album for sure. But I think she kind of does things in a different way that kind of makes it stand out more than a lot of pop artists are these days. Which added a lot of replayability because, yes, this album is pretty bloated at 14 songs. I do think they could have cut out some tracks. I guess I don't think Kaleidoscope is that interesting and
no.
Probably could have gone.
That being said, probably my favorite of the slow songs.
California also could have done without. But literally pick and choose any of the pop more upbeat songs and I like those ones.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Probably Hot to Go being my most favorite after Midnight. After that,
I feel pretty much the same way. I think the slower songs are like the weaker songs, but like the fast upbeat songs are just great.
Yes.
And she has like a bunch of those.
Yeah, that is the true strength of this album for sure.
It's just I see these songs like everywhere on like TikTok or whatever. Just people constantly talking about them.
Hot to Go is like the new Hey Mickey. It's like
yeah,
like it's very much inspired. Oh, actually, there's a lot of like '80s synth inspired songs on this album, but
I feel like anybody actually putting music behind pop music right now are doing that. Or it's like 80s
like an 80s
influence,
revival.
yeah. Like even you can hear it with like Sabrina Carpenter and stuff too.
I also saw I watched a couple of the music videos for this, and someone left a comment on Hot to Go that were like, "This is like the lesbian version of the YMCA."
that makes a lot of sense.
And yeah, like once I read that comment, I'm like, I get it now. Like,
so to sandwich a thing that's like basically lyric written and like really thought out with both the albums we listened to, where I had to ignore the lyrics to actually like is interesting. But to go after the two songs I actually liked, Coffee is What Starts What I Don't Like.
Me too.
Is I called post folklore pop.
I don't see any connection to folklore.
Yeah, I'm not like...
I don't understand how your hate for Taylor Swift has any tie
It's
to
not
this.
a hate for Taylor Swift. I like Taylor Swift, like, Shake It Off and Blank Space and Look What You Made Me Do. And
the Taylor Swift influence I saw was on one song specifically. It was My Kink is Karma. Like in the chorus, it does sound a lot like Taylor, but that's pretty much kind of where it ends for me.
It's not so much that it's like a clone of Taylor Swift is what I'm not trying to get at. I think that a lot of pop music since folklore has come out has been that minimalistic, like one instrument, if it's even real, with not doing the thing that Billie Eilish does on The Greatest. Like nobody's showing off. They're just there. They're singing a song with maybe an instrument behind them. And that's what I don't like.
So, like, I kind of agree and disagree with your take, where I do think some, actually, kind of like a majority of pop is kind of boring sounding. I don't think this is in that category, though.
5 of them are.
Well,
so
okay,
Coffee...
when I say, I mean, like, the actual songs that I like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
so,
like I'm not talking about the slower songs.
What the problem that this album is getting is that it's the first one that I've been able to say that on a podcast with. Is my problems with modern pop. It's just the one that gets it's the first one there. It's the first one we talked about where I feel this strongly about that thing. There are 9 other songs on this album that don't sound like that. But Coffee, Casual, Picture You, Kaleidoscope, and California are all the same song. With Kaleidoscope having a piano, so like a real instrument. Probably my favorite of the bunch. But because those exist, it brings this album down a lot. It's more than a third of the album is the slow minimalistic pop that I'm having problems with as of late. That being said, there's another 9 songs.
All the songs you listed, I 100% agree. I do think they bring it down a little. But I also think the other 9 songs are very strong and hold up the album pretty well. Which is surprising, because I don't even really like pop music that much, but I don't know. I kind of dug this album.
That's really my biggest thing with this album is that the other 9 songs are good. They're fine. I don't know. Some of them are hit or miss. Personal preferences to music kind of ruin it a little bit for me. It's like, for instance, California, I really, just to beat up on the slow songs, I don't care for artists singing about how hard it is to be an artist or they're making it song.
Yeah, I don't like
it's annoying to me. Like, Mayday Parade has 1. And it's my least favorite Mayday Parade song.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you remove California and maybe like one of those other songs,
it's a much better album.
This album is, I mean, I did already like this album, but it improves that much more, I think.
Yeah, it's more than a third of it.
If a few songs were cut, I think it would be a lot better.
Yeah. Even though I was like pretty positive, I came away with this. This is actually the album I listened to the most this week, surprisingly. which going into it, I was not expecting.
But even that being said, the song that I think is the most cut-worthy is The Last. The Guilty Pleasure, I feel like every other song on the album did what that one did better.
It's the weakest of the pop tracks.
It was pretty forgettable.
I don't see a point, especially as the album closer. I always look at the album closer as like something that's supposed to be like monumental, and it's my least favorite of pretty much probably the whole bunch, even the slow songs that I don't like.
I feel like Hot to Go would have been a good way to end the album.
Yeah.
I feel like that song is a good pick-me-up, though. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's good in the middle.
But
I actually think maybe they could have ended it with Naked in Manhattan.
Yeah.
It would have been a good, like,
the problem with that one is that the whole chorus is just her saying, "Touch me."
Well,
there's nothing to that chorus.
The chorus, yeah, but
the verses of it I like just fine.
Yeah, there's a lot of like good pop culture references in that song. Talking about Mean Girls and Lana Del Rey.
The song, I feel like what is probably the fan favorite that I like the least is Pink Pony Club. Didn't like that song.
I like that song. It has a guitar. It has a guitar solo in it.
That's my favorite song on the album.
Really?
Yeah.
The verses sound like she's almost trying to do like an Amy Lee impression, and I don't really like Amy Lee. It's like really deep vocal range.
Okay, well, I think it's on Picture You. It kind of sounds like she's trying to emulate Lana Del Rey.
Yeah, maybe.
Like she gets the really deep voice, which I don't think really suits her.
No.
Because it's like I've heard her singing voice on the songs prior.
Yeah.
And I think that it suits her more.
Yeah, Pink Pony Club just annoyed me altogether.
Well, I think you're in the minority here.
I am. And that's fine. That's the point of this. That is the whole point of this podcast, is to have differing opinions on music. I just...
Look, like 2 weeks ago when we picked the album, I did not expect to see myself going to bat for Chappell Roan here, but here I am. Like, I thought this was pretty good.
Hot to Go is probably my third favorite after the other two earlier in the album.
It's probably my second favorite.
It's a lot of fun.
Since like the first time I heard it, it has like not left my brain.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Like the whole spelling.
It also points out another personal preference of mine where I don't really care for music that's just about sex either.
Yeah, I think
maybe that's just an immaturity in my brain. Like I'm trying to figure out why I don't like it.
I'm with you. Like Uncasual, for example. Like the chorus of I don't know. We're probably not monetized, but
no, we're not.
I'd say it'd probably get us demonetized if we were. But but it's just like I don't know. It's a little much. Which Chappell Roan is very like kind of a little bit to her detriment. I would say like in my case anyway. Like it's kind of just a little too much.
It's very much like this is what's happening in the song, and I'm gonna be in your face about it. I mean, for Lunch, for example, like with the last round. Yeah, no, even favorite bands of mine, when they make just songs that are just about sex, I'm like, these are my least favorite. Like the Home Team released one named Loud. And I was like, it's a good song, like musically, but it's just a sex song, and I don't know.
It kind of depends on like how it's done for me, but I feel like I tend to like songs that have like a sexual theme behind it.
Timmy's getting freaky over here.
Yeah, it's just a personal thing. Like, I don't know. I can never really get into music that's not just blatantly about sex either. So there's a lot of things going against this in my brain. That I didn't want to be so like...
Yeah, I'm curious to kind of to hear your final score here, because it kind of felt like me and Timmy were like defending and you were attacking. But also you had some good like...
The problem is that it's not bad. Like, altogether as a package, it's like, objectively speaking, it is a bloated album that has a third of it as what I find the problem with pop music nowadays is. Because I feel like a lot of what I hear in pop, not that I keep up, not that I know everything, but is the minimalistic pop, where it's like, it's music and the lightest standing of what I would call music. And because we're talking about this now, it's getting the heat from it in my brain. Like, it's been a problem that's been on my mind for probably about a year now, where like some song will come out and be like, where's the music here? Like, honestly, since The Weeknd was big.
I guess what you're saying is kind of like what my thoughts were last time on Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
Where I just kind of thought it was like a little... There just wasn't a whole lot going on that I thought was interesting.
And so, I get it, and I do like... I like After Midnight and...
After Midnight
Red, White,
has
Supernova
a great
lot.
bass line to it.
Like, I mean, lyrically, After Midnight's not great. It's just about being a problem. But
who cares?
the song is fun. It's good. It's catchy. I like it a lot. Hot to Go is, again, probably my third. It's a good song. It's crazy energetic. There's vocal runs in that song that she doesn't do in the rest of this album. Like, she sounds good. The song sounds good. But
it probably is. I'm pretty sure it is. But is we confirmed his Red Wine Supernova? Is that like an Oasis reference?
I thought
Champagne Supernova?
I thought that immediately when I listened to it. Maybe.
I feel like it's got to be like.
I watched a lot of these songs have music videos.
They do. I watched the Hot to Go one, and now my YouTube is like flooded with Chappell Roan stuff.
I actually haven't seen any of the music videos for her music.
She like spells out it. Hot to Go is like based on cheerleading stuff.
Yeah,
and it's like she like spells out the HE whatever.
I've seen people do that with like Elden Ring emotes.
Oh really?
Yeah, they have the song playing and they spelled it out with different emotes.
Final thought wise, I gave it a 4.5 because I'm not coming out of it positively, but there are songs on it that I like. But out of the very bloated 14 songs, 5 of them I actively dislike. Or actually, just because of that stupid thing that's been on my mind lately. If you give it a little bit and people start making like actual pop music again, I'll probably like this one more. But for some reason, it's just a problem at hand that I'm taking out on this one. In my brain. And I don't know. I'll probably keep the 2-3 songs I liked, which is pretty good for this group because I normally just delete them after we're done. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say. It's just really mixed feelings, and it sounds more negative than I wanted it to be, but also I'm not crazy positive on it either.
I mean, that's fair enough. Honestly, I kind of thought you were going lower.
No, I liked it. I liked 3 of the songs a lot. I liked a handful of the other ones. They're probably a good, solid... Of the 14 songs, I think there are about 8 that I actively just like don't want to ever listen to again.
Well, so I'm like in a similar boat where it's like I do really like, the majority of the album, but there are some songs that let it down that keeps it from being like a really high score. But for what's there, like it's I don't know. I disagree with the boring pop take, I guess. Like I don't know. I think she's kind of a breath of fresh air. Like
for half of it, yes.
Yeah. Not for the singer-songwriter types. Yeah. I will give you that, but I don't know. I'll give it a 7. I think it could have been better if maybe a couple of tracks were cut, like we said. Definitely would have flowed better.
Well, the problem is that I feel like the guys in pop music are doing better at what I'm wanting pop music to be. Like Charlie Puth makes really good music, and Taylor Swift agrees. There's a line in the first song of the new album that says Charlie Puth should be a bigger artist, and I'm all for it.
I caught that reference.
Yeah, I didn't get it. Anyway, yeah, 7.
Yeah, I think the album's really good. I think it's just a bit flawed, and I think a few songs should be cut because they're too slow and just don't fit the vibe at all. I give it 7.5.
It's a good debut.
Yeah, I think she just recently came out with like a new single.
Yeah, I didn't listen to it.
I haven't checked it out either. But
definitely happened.
I really
Gotta ride the fame.
6.3, so kind of close to the other ones.
We ruined it. I went too low. These last 2 episodes have been positive.
Her new single's a good look, babe, which I've heard a lot, and I like that one a lot too.
Yeah, that just came out.
Yeah, and it has the most amount of plays
in April
here.
Yeah,
all listed too.
Yeah, like just
because on Apple Music they like push the singles up to the top.
Oh, I clicked on one.
Don't want to
get taken down.
Yeah,
not for that song.
Oh come on! It was Pink Pony Club, by the way, for anybody wondering. All right,
there's been 2 positive episodes. I'm pretty happy.
Yeah.
Going back
For
to
the
like
most part.
2 years ago, almost exactly. To where probably our first fight.
The big fight, yeah.
Not even the big, but it was definitely Timmy telling me I have a bad taste in music, being the only one that hates True Power. Like, Timmy, the 3 of the 4 of us like this album.
I don't remember this conversation.
It's why
you probably don't remember the album at all.
Your group chat name came from that.
What's my group chat name?
You changed it yourself to like 1 out of 10 dentists.
1 out of 10 dentists approve or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
You changed it yourself.
I have complete amnesia for our group chatting.
Okay, so what do we have in store for the next time? Which will actually be like recorded in like a month.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have more time with this one. So.
I don't know if we want to go in like
I have
reverse order.
I'll do it.
You go first.
Since I have sort of decided that I wanted to be the anti-pop guy here, and also give a kind of middling review to an album that people sometimes call the best of all time, I'm going to pick an album that is the best pop music made in the last couple of years.
Charlie Puth.
No. Plus, the biggest art installation of an album I've ever heard, and that is Electric Callboy.
Are they pop?
We're going to listen to Techno by Electric Callboy. And to argue with what you just said, the extra credit song, since we have time, I'm going to make you guys listen to the singles they've released since then, which they have covered Every Time We Touch, which is pop. Did a song with Baby Metal called Ratatata, which we're also going to listen to.
That's a Pokemon.
It is a Pokemon.
Ratatata.
Rattata.
So yeah, that's a joke, by the way.
Cool. I didn't pick up.
I know. I just wanted to make it the joke. But yeah, I was very much going to do Aaron West again, just to be like, we're doing Aaron West, but it's summer. We're going to listen to more fun.
Okay, I was going to say, this round's going to be fun then, because I also have a similar like summer vibe album. It just came out last month, and obviously I listened to our 3 albums that we assigned this week, but I've also been listening to this other album, which I will reveal here in a second, non-stop when I'm not listening to one of the assigned albums.
My Aaron West.
And that is No Hands by Joey Valance and Bray.
Okay, I've never heard of that before.
That's kind of what I thought.
I never heard of either of your guys' albums.
Well, you will.
Electric Callboy did recently go through not recently, but they changed their lead singer and their name, and is somehow more popular than they ever were previously. So relatively newly named band, but they've been together for a long time, and their clean vocalist is new.
I see.
So we have, I'm assuming your album's like a fun type album, because it's just from what I know of Electric Callboy, but.
Yeah, it's fun. It's not. It goes against everything I've ever done in this podcast. Where I'm the depressing guy.
All right, what you got?
Mine's also very fun.
Yeah, summer.
Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd.
That's
not fun at all.
Yeah.
I mean...
more prog rock.
Yeah.
Where were you this? You should have swapped your albums.
I should have. I didn't know we were doing a theme.
I didn't either.
No, but it's just we're getting off.
Chappell Roan should have been this time.
Damn.
That being said, I do appreciate the more in-depth album, because we will have extra time to listen to it. I was sitting there like, I should probably pick like an hour plus since we have extra time, and I was like, I'm on vacation. Brandon's gonna be on vacation.
Mine's pretty short.
It's only 42 minutes.
With the extra songs, mine's probably that. Listen to the extra songs, though, because they're fun.
Okay.
Fun.
You probably have to remind us via group chat.
Yeah, I already forgot.
There's also a live version of Techno, and you don't have to listen to it. It's like the tour edition. It adds like 5 songs at the end. They're all fun. Or they're all live. That being said, if with the extra time, want to take the time to listen to them, they just don't grade them. They're live. They're just versions of the same songs that are on the album. Yeah. If you wanted to see the live experience. Because I drove to Pittsburgh to see them. Which is...
To see a band from Germany.
Which is 4.5 hours. Wow. This is also my...
you're trying to... I see what you're doing.
We're going to make up for our...
and Timmy, I see what you're doing. You're trying to get the UK audience back.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to get them back. You got to change yours to some European band.
Well, I gotta
if it's
keep,
not,
I gotta keep the Americans
darn.
in here somehow.
Darn.
All
We're
right.
gonna get our viewership back. But thanks for listening again. Like actually, for wasting your time listening to us talk about stuff.
I know we tend to ramble sometimes. Get off topic.
Yeah, they get hard to edit sometimes. But again, very much thank you. Things that actually help are liking the video and commenting and things like that. If you guys want to play along with it, it's kind of the whole idea of this.
Yeah, listen to the albums. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you agree with us, disagree.
Yeah, and that would be the fun of it. Again, this was all made because we have differing opinions, even though I thought going into it that it would be more close. It's interesting to find the small little things that will ruin something for somebody and make it for another.
It can be the tiniest thing
Yeah.
in a song that will set one of us off. Like it will just ruin the whole album.
Yeah, it's happened.
Or just the song. Like last time with Boogie, Brockhampton, you just couldn't get over the
still
the
one of my favorite
siren.
songs on that whole thing. But yeah, it's just fun to listen to the different opinions on music. That's kind of the whole idea of this.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening. We're just people again, just talking about music that we care about or hate, and
Or both.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, and have a good 3 weeks.